All right, there is finally a second episode of their Will Be Banter, delayed by powers that we are unable to foresee or control. And now that we are here, I'd like to bring in the retired CIA spook, Ronald Mueller. How are you, sir? There he is.
I'm well, thank you.
A nice wave to the congregation. The left's lovable, most favorite, probably, and we'll assume to be most favorite, gun-toting liberal, Veronica. How are you?
Excellent.
She's excellent. It's also her cheat day, so she's actually partaking in adult beverages tonight. And then we also have the world's most okayast podcaster and Green Beret, Nick Guy. How are you, sir?
I'm well, and I just want to say,
Please.
Every day is my cheat day.
And then there's me, your very average, and as Nick adorned me over the past few days, bourbon snob of a host. It's my job to herd cats. I'm Eric, and it's good to have you guys with us. Like I said, I don't know if you guys know this, but analytics play a big part into this stuff, right? And so, we're right around 500 viewers and listeners from last week, so that's not bad for not knowing who the hell we are outside of Nick's audience that he created.
Good job, team.
Yeah, good job, team. Let's see if we can top that, which I think we can, because we're only here to grow. We're kind of like muscles. The more you exercise with us, the more we will grow. That's the worst analogy ever delivered, but you know what? There will be banter.
If you listen to our smartness, your brain gets excited and grows.
Exactly. Well, your smartness. Mine is, as we've proven today, is non-existent. So let's go ahead and get this kind of kicked off with what was the big event last week. And I know, as I said, this is a Thursday. We're probably going to do this from a Thursday from this point on. I want to try and take the feedback I received over the last, week and a half. And I want to just throw this into Veronica's court first, because we did talk a little bit back and forth on it. But by all means, share with us your take on the wonderful convention that took place last week for the Republican Party.
I will say that my favorite part was, and I'm gonna butcher her last name, Guilfoyle.
Oh, Kimberly
Gargoyle?
Guilfoyle.
Yeah, whatever.
Guilfoyle.
Saying that she's a first-generation American.
Puerto
Rico has been part of the United States since 1917, sweetheart. Like, you're not. that's not a thing. So that was.
You're about to piss off a whole bunch of Puerto Ricans right now.
That's also true.
It's part of the U.S. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You're a citizen. Sorry, not sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was probably one of my favorite parts. And then, like, Trump's speech was just awful. So,
which, to be fair, Veronica did say Joe Biden's speech was awful as well. So
yeah, they were both terrible. I will say that Trump was able to read from the teleprompter much better than you guys can hear my dog squeaking.
That's okay. We like dogs here. We're a pet friendly show.
But yeah, so like Biden couldn't read from the teleprompter. He got lost halfway through. It was terrible, right? Like, he decided to like have a stroke halfway through his speech, and Trump just like breaks sentences up like Christopher Walken the entire time. It was like emphasis on the wrong parts of like the delivery. It was really fun to watch because it was really poorly executed. Not a great orator.
Not a great orator. No, he's not. Ron, as the clear Trump supporter on this panel, what did you think? What were your takeaways?
Well,
now he's got the mask.
well, I think,
I appreciate you having a mask because a lot of people during a speech didn't.
Stop. No, I if I have to wear a mask in some business establishments, I might as well wear one that gets people's blood pressure going. I thought it was a pretty, okay. To Veronica's point, the Trump's not a great orator, and he never has been, and I get that. That's fine. I mean, he's not going to be a Barack or a JFK or something like that. That's fine. But if you read the words, not listen to him say them, but if you read the words, it laid out a pretty ambitious yet positive agenda for the United States. I thought overall that the convention painted a positive, uplifting vision of the United States, whereas the Democrats painted a very dire, dark picture of the United States, and that's something that doesn't resonate well with people. We like to be stroked. We like to be told, things are going to be okay, that we are exceptional, that we are good, and better days are ahead. So I thought the Republicans basically ran circles around the Democrats. I mean, you notice there's been more of a bounce for Trump, even in the fakest of polls. So I thought it was overall it was, considering the limitations they had to work under, they did pretty good.
Okay, and I do before we get to Nick, I do want to note that, because I've been noticing this for years now, and I don't understand why it's like the Democrat Party has just gone ahead and just, here, Republicans, you take the patriotism angle, you take the law enforcement and military angle, and we're going to just do the angle of let's change everything about the United States because it's not working. So Nick, what did you take away from it?
I mean, I'm going to echo Ron's sentiments. The feeling was very much a positive, experience. Right. It was, and you're right. Trump is a terrible orator. He is. And my favorite thing about watching Trump when he does speeches is you can tell the exact moment he's reading the teleprompter and then he goes off script, but he doesn't really stray from the script. He'll just repeat something. He'll just repeat like a fragment of a sentence. He goes, and then we're having a really great economic boom. And it is, folks. It's very great. And that's his off moment. And then he's back to the script. So yeah, he's a terrible orator.
Yeah.
Listen.
I wrote one of those. It's funny that you said that, because I wrote specifically one of those down, and it's so like, we're gonna have
that's what he does.
We're gonna have a vaccine before the end of the year or sooner.
Yeah, or sooner. It's just like it's basically like we get these little glimpses into his running internal monologue while he's reading the teleprompter. And quite frankly, listen, I know it comes off awkward, but I think it's really him just trying to be genuine, because like Trump, dislike him, at the end of the day, the guy's a billionaire. Like, he's not really, like, he's just trying to become more approachable. He doesn't know how, because the guy's been rich his entire adult life. But I think that the convention was very much like Trump had his Reagan 1984, and this was before I was born. So if you got, and probably before Veronica and Eric were born, but not.
No, I was born in 1980. I voted for Reagan in the first election, fraudulently, but I did.
Fraudulently, yeah.
It was a mail-in ballot.
Did you vote twice?
Yes.
As suggested to test the system.
Just wanted to see if it worked.
It was his morning in America. It's morning in America again moment. It was the same thing that Reagan did during '84. I think it worked for him. He just highlighted how, hey, is your life better? Okay. Despite, you take Corona out of the equation. Was your life better? And is it coming back from when Corona just devastated the United States economy? And the answer to those two questions for the majority of Americans, and even if they don't like the answer to the question, the answer is yes, I'm better off than I was 4 years ago. And okay, even if things got weird with coronavirus, yes, I'm better off now than I was back in March, April of this year. And it's a very difficult question for people to answer, because at the end of the day, Trump's polarizing. And if you absolutely hate him, you're not going to want to. You're going to begrudgingly admit it to yourself, but you're not going to say that. But those are the questions that Trump was asking. And I think for a lot of people, the answer was yes and yes.
Yeah, and Veronica, I'll come back to you after this, but I thought, or I've said this earlier this week, is the same question that Nick just said. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? It's kind of, it's both sides, right? Because yes, me
and
personally,
it's cliche. I am. All politicians always ask that. I know it's cliche.
But I'm better off than I was 4 years ago because of myself. It's nothing that, the government or the president did. And this is the same thing when the previous president would ask the same thing. Like, yes, I have gotten better every 4 years of my life since I turned 18 because of things that I'm doing for myself. It has nothing to do with the president or the government, but to your point, people
I
are
think
going
it's
to ask
more like,
themselves.
hey, how's your 401k looking?
Right. I think
how
Ron
are your
said that last
investments
week.
looking?
Right. And
That's
now,
what he means by that. He doesn't. Nobody cares left or right how Eric's doing, how Veronica's doing, how Ron's doing. Nobody gives a shit.
Right.
How Nick is doing. Absolutely nobody gives a shit how Nick's doing. I'm
I
doing
only
fine.
care about how your
I give
mustache
a
is
doing
shit
doing.
how
fine.
you're doing, Nick.
I just
give
want
a
to know
shit.
how the
Thanks,
mustache
Veronica.
is
I'm
doing.
doing great.
So let's throw it back at Veronica. What does?
Well, I think it's hard to separate that, right? Like
Yeah.
how do you say like, well, was your life better than coronavirus? Because the coronavirus response is relevant because the White House's response to that is important, right? And like the unemployment numbers and the way that we're handling, people who are currently out of jobs, people whose healthcare was tied to their employment that they no longer have and where they are with that, like all of those things matter. The way that public school is now being ran, that matters, right? People having to work a job while also homeschooling their kids that matters.
Yeah.
And I think, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I'm team no kids. So I'm, 30 and thriving, doing great.
Yeah.
But like,
Hey, I'm
but
team with a kid who just started high school and she does it
Right.
online through Zoom, just like
Right.
this.
And but like, but can I look back and say like, am I doing well? Sure. But are my nephews doing well? Not really. Like, this is really hard for them to understand.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that are unemployed. My sister and my brother-in-law, who are both, college educated professionals, were both furloughed for a really long period of time. And luckily they had savings to fall back on. But I also have a lot of friends and family that didn't have that luxury, or maybe didn't make those, take those same steps. Right. So like, I think that matters when you're looking at like, hey, were you better off 4 years ago? And a lot of people are a resounding fuck no.
Okay.
So
that's fair. Ron, what do you say to that? Because I know you are, I think you can
right of Attila the Hun?
Well, I think you can give a bigger picture of it because of just where you are in your life at this point.
Somebody that's collecting Social Security.
Yeah, and not contributing to our economy in any way. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, it's time for the first F-bomb.
Yes, bring it.
That was the meanest old person joke I've ever heard.
It was.
I mean, he did get a job though recently, so it's fine. He's back in the workforce.
I did.
So look, people are hiring. Ron's proven it.
Hallmark door reader.
No, but close. I look terrible in a blue jacket. No, I agree with everything Veronica says about that it's very individualistic, but I think what a lot of Americans need to understand is that the response isn't always at the federal level. We don't have a central government that has all the answers and can dictate all the responses. We have a system called federalism, and it depends a lot on the governors. And we've seen 50 governors implement 50 different solutions, and in some places it hasn't worked out too well. It has
California.
I mean, I'm in South Dakota, and our governor, she rocks. She can write. Yeah. Well, I'll tell her
the
husband.
Population's like 12 people. It's really not that hard to govern.
Oh, you are so snobby. Wow.
Typical coastal elitism.
All 12 of you guys are doing great.
Well,
I bet she wants to disband the electoral college too.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Let's not go there yet. But hey, Veronica, you'll be happy to know that the first 2 Antifa members showed up to Ron's place of employment, so they're on the radar.
That's right. And they did not like being. I guess I had my bitch face on or something like that, and they did not like my look. So
it's a resting bitch face, Ron.
RBF. Yeah.
No, I was just glaring at them. I was just, and they did not appreciate that they were the center of my attention. I'm security for a casino, so in Deadwood. So it's
how the mighty have fallen.
it pays me ammo money.
I'm just here to make jokes.
You know
That's
what?
my job here.
I appreciate that's pocket money.
Exactly.
That's all it is. I'm contributing to my local economy by protecting, because they literally, I think they wanted to cause an incident. We had a small thing in Sturgis during the rally where the cops had to surround them and protect them. It didn't work out so well when one of the protesters knocked over a few of the bikes. And, like in the movie Wild Hogs, where the bikes all sort of go chung 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 chung. Yeah, it was. Thank goodness for the local sheriff's department and police force there. They protected them. So we had a couple of these folks show up in Deadwood, which was what a mistake. It was right in the middle of a car show of old muscle cars and things like that. And I think every third person was wearing either a Trump face mask, for those that wore face masks, a Trump hat, a Trump T-shirt, and a lot of the vehicles were flying Trump flags.
Seems like a fashion faux pas.
Safe to say Trump is popular.
It's called high fashion. Veronica, look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
Corona Couture.
Yeah, Corona Couture. All right, so last word on this, convention or whatever it is we've devolved into at this point. We'll throw it to Nick, and then we'll move on. Nick.
Last word. First off, I just want to clarify, I've never seen Wild Hogs.
I haven't either.
It's an old person movie.
Second,
I've seen them in person and shot them in the face, but I've never actually.
Why they would show up to Sturgis is beyond me, because that's just
seriously
stupid.
though.
Hey,
and third,
scouts do weird things.
Yes, they do. And third, I'm not even gonna say, because I'm just gonna cause an argument. So let's just move on.
Okay, let's just move on. Nick doesn't want to cause an argument, which I feel like he was about to, because he accused Veronica
I
of
want
wanting
to cause the argument, but I know that we're strapped for time.
We're doing good so far, but I do remember you saying you were trying to accuse Veronica of wanting to abolish the Electoral College. Veronica, would you like to respond to that real quick?
I don't know why Nick's making assumptions about me.
That's what we do on the right, remember? Just like the left does to the right, the right does to the left.
Stereotype.
Veronica, this is the internet. You said one thing. I took it way out of context, and I ran with it. I let my imagination just do crazy things, and then I accused you of something.
Yep.
You know what's out of hand? You and that mustache. Don't appreciate it.
The shots are fired.
Don't appreciate it.
Hey, we do not attack physical appearance on this show, okay? Unbelievable. All right. Okay, as I take another sip of the finest Stag Junior from Buffalo Trace, let's move on to the young man who has caused a in the era that we're in, with all the memes and the video memes, if that's a thing, this kid is going to live in infamy one way or the other forever. I don't know if you guys have seen most of them. I think Nick probably has. Ron probably has. I don't know about Veronica. But Kyle Rittenhouse injected himself into the 2020 narrative rather unceremoniously about a week and a half ago. Veronica, I know, like I said, you had a very different take on it, as I watched on Facebook, which it's not that I thought you would. I knew you'd have something to say. I didn't know you would take it to the position that you did. And it's cool, because I already know this. Every story is viewed through an individual lens, and we all see shit differently. So what was your takeaway overall on what Kyle Rittenhouse did, given everything that I sent out for you guys to check out, all the own independent research I'm sure you guys have all done. But overall, at this point, as far removed as we are from the situation today, where do you come out on that whole situation?
So I feel like I need to reiterate for everybody listening, like, I am a gun owner.
Yep.
My boyfriend and I have varying opinions on this whole situation. My two roommates are also gun owners. I live in a small arsenal, right? We are all 2A advocates in this house.
Yes.
So
we stand the Second Amendment.
Oh, yeah. With that said, I think this is an issue of, obviously, like, legality and morality for me. And without a doubt, he broke the law, at least a misdemeanor, right? Because as a 17-year-old
Right. The
in
misdemeanor's
Wisconsin, the misdemeanor's there. As a 17-year-old in the state of Wisconsin, short of hunting, he cannot possess a rifle, right? We know this, and I can give you guys the links to all of the like statutes for that if you need to. With that said, I've watched, so then I believe it was the New York Times and a couple other organizations put together a lot of cell phone footage from different angles on what happened that night.
Mhm.
And from what it looks like, there was obviously an altercation between Kyle Rittenhouse and the first guy, and what happened between there's a little muggy. Kyle shot the first guy, then stood over his body for a while, realized he fucked up, and then started to leave the scene. There's a phone call that's made. He calls a friend of his who then corroborated that he said, "I think I just killed somebody."
Was
So
that
that's
the first guy or the third
this
guy?
is the first. This is the first guy.
Okay.
So then people start saying, "Hey, stop him! Stop him!
Okay.
He just shot somebody." That's when a second guy goes after him. He shoots at him, doesn't hit him. The third guy goes after him with the skateboard. That's when he shoots and kills that guy. I believe his name was Anthony. And then the fourth guy gets shot in the arm with the pistol.
With the gun.
With the gun. You know, so the self-defense argument's really hard for me to swallow because, one, he shouldn't have been there. So, like, already you're committing a crime. Castle doctrine does not apply to you. You do not get to post up on somebody else's private property, on somebody else's business, and defend it, especially when you don't even legally live in that state. On top of all of that, you know, everybody's like, well, you know, he's defending himself. After he shot the first guy and essentially fled the scene, from what it looks like, from all of the collected cell phone footage and the witness statements, what about the rights of the people, whether or not you agree with their political leanings? What about the right of the people there to defend themselves? And, you know, flip it around. If you had an Antifa member or a Black Lives Matters member, you know, shoot somebody at a whatever, right? Some other right-leaning rally, and the crowd goes after him to subdue him until the cops can take him off. That's essentially the same narrative here. But the problem is that I think in these discussions, we get muddied with whether or not we agree with the protest or the rally or the riots, if you want, or the reason that the group of people were there to begin with.
Right.
Regardless of all of that, take that out. That's a whole other discussion. Kyle, as an individual, broke the law in my eyes. You know, he's obviously being charged with these things. Now, whether or not they stick is a whole other story. We all know how our legal system works, and all you have to
throw
do is
it all at him and hope it sticks.
Right. And, you know, ultimately it's going to be who has the most compelling argument. Whether or not it's the truth is to be determined, right? Like we've seen that with, like, say, OJ. Doesn't matter, right? But I personally don't morally agree with him being there and what happened. So
okay,
that's my take on it. As a gun owner, like, I don't agree with it.
Well, I think a lot of people have pointed out that if you're going to go to the scene of something, whether you're looking for that confrontation or not, you may find yourself in it.
Yeah.
Now, Ron, Lynn Wood.
Actually,
hold on, Ron.
Actually,
Lynn Wood.
Can I?
Yeah, no, I'm going to come to you. But Lynn Wood, the attorney for, you know, Richard Jewell from the famous Atlanta bombing during the Olympics, has taken up the defense of this young man. So, Ron, given everything that you know on the situation, because I know, like, when we talked about it last week, you, I think, felt differently from me. But hearing what Veronica said, how do you feel based on what she said, but also how do you feel overall?
Well, this is going to surprise the audience, and I think Veronica too. But I agree more with her than with.
No, that's what I thought. I thought that's the route you'd go because based on what you said last week.
But I mean, first off, you know, the stories that you sent us, I mean, they couldn't even get the simple facts right. You know, he's an Illinois resident, but the one story had him residing in same name of the town, but in Wisconsin. So, you know, never trust a foreign reporter. But
it was Indian for those dots, not feathers.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people said, yeah, but the first guy that he killed, you know, he was a registered sex offender, convicted pedophile, whatever.
Yeah.
that doesn't justify what he did. You know, he literally he was a minor with some pretty strong. I mean, he's got some skills. We got that. Everybody commented on, oh,
Yeah,
sign this guy up onto 11 Bravo contract right away. But I think
18X all day.
he went there. He went there looking. He went there looking for trouble,
Yep.
for a confrontation, and he found it.
Found it.
He was, and it was extraordinarily unfortunate. I don't think that he, the killing of any of those people was justified. Because he shouldn't have been there. And even though the first individual, yes, he was a registered sex offender, that doesn't justify what Kyle did. And the other guys, yeah, he was fleeing the scene and he was trying to get away and he was defending himself. But yeah, it's like you shouldn't have been there in the first place. And bravo that you were alive, but still I just think it's just a bad situation. And this young, and some people are trying to compare him to the young man who just won the defamation suit, the out of court settlement with the Washington Post, who was confronted by the American Indian activist for wearing Make America.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Nick something, I think.
Nick Sandman.
Sandeman.
Sandeman, yeah. Some people are trying to compare him to that, but again, Nick didn't go there looking for a confrontation. They were on a tour of Washington,
right?
And but this guy, he made the conscious decision. He woke up one morning, he packed up his stuff, got in a car, drove there, said, I'm going to defend this piece of property. The owner didn't ask him to. Nobody on that block asked him to. And he was looking for a confrontation. He wanted to cause violence. And that just, no. I think the rule of law is the most important thing in this country.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And despite our, the two-tier justice system that we see sometimes occurring and things like that, I really believe that we cannot start taking the law into our own hands, and we can't go around justifying post-incident killing of another individual. I mean, that may work good in a jury, but morally it's reprehensible.
Okay, and then just before I throw it to Nick, I looked into this a little bit more, and supposedly, and this is where I want to play devil's advocate a bit, because supposedly he was in Kenosha to clean graffiti. Fine, but what makes you bring the AR with you? And so I will go to Nick now on that.
I have an answer.
I'm actually really proud of myself. I've just been, as a person that I've grown, that I can, at this point, 30 years in, I can keep my mouth shut and listen to other opinions.
I'm proud of you, Nick. I'm very proud of you. I think it's the mustache.
It is. The mustache is literally upped my ante by 20 years.
Source of wisdom.
Yep.
Yeah.
It works for him.
I derive all wisdom from the mustache.
Like a wisdom.
You need
chia
some more
pet.
spirit gum, Nick. Your mustache is drooping on that side.
Exactly. All right, so I kind of want to take this point by point here.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to play devil's advocate, because this is what I actually believe. All right. First off, listen, yeah, there is a wisdom in knowing when to fight and when not to fight. There is. But I'm not going to say, well, he shouldn't have been there, because I am not in the business of victim blaming. I'm not. And people will I know people are going to crucify me. For the few people that watch this, are going to say this. I'm saying this is that's the exact same argument intellectually as saying that's what she was wearing. She was asking for it. That's what I'm going to say. And I see Veronica shaking her head, but intellectually, that's the same argument. He shouldn't have put himself in that position. She shouldn't have put herself in that situation. It's both bullshit. I don't subscribe to that argument for any of those situations. Going beyond, he was in Kenosha already cleaning up graffiti.
Yep.
We know that. He did not take the AR over state lines.
Okay.
Kenosha is a 20-minute drive. He worked in Kenosha as a lifeguard. He had connections to it. Now, some of the things I have read was that the business owner had asked people to defend his property. Am I going to say that I'm not going to argue to the validity of that. It's just something I've read. Was the business owner had to ask people to defend his property. And I'm not even going to go into, because Ron says it is immaterial. The fact that he killed a pedophile, a wife beater, and a convicted felon who was photographed with a gun. It is immaterial. It totally is. Here's how I saw the breakdown. There's about 47 minutes of film of the first guy that got smoked at the gas station where Kyle and his buddies were.
Yep.
And that was 47 minutes of footage of that confrontation just bubbling up. So you had those guys that were there. They were saying, hey, here it is. They were armed. Yeah, they were doing the LARPer thing. I get it. I don't get it because I don't fucking LARP. but they were there. And this guy was all over cell phone footage, instigating shit. The guy was going nuts. That first guy, dude, he was dropping like N-bombs. He was calling like all these white people like the N-word. Like
shoot me, N-word. Shoot me.
Yeah. He's trying to instigate, telling him to shoot him. He was getting up in people's faces. Even the other protesters were like, dude, slow your fucking roll right now.
Yeah,
you
they
sound
were
like a crazy
back.
person.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of footage. So this wasn't an organic incident. And the next footage we have is Kyle running, and the first guy chasing him with a lit bottle. But because the guy's an idiot and nobody actually knows how Molotov cocktails work, they if you put in the hands of an average Antifa,
I do.
Idiot, well, Ron knows.
Of course, the CIA knows how improvised explosive devices work.
Ron would show up in like Caracas with like a crate full of
humanitarian gifts for the people.
And he's like coming around the corner with his finger up on it. He goes,
may or may not have already done it.
May have. So he throws something at Kyle. It was lit in the cell phone footage I saw. The rag was lit, but because he doesn't know how a Molotov works, it basically just shatters at his feet. In my opinion, somebody throws a Molotov cocktail at me, I'm taking away, should he not have been there? Should he not? Because at the end of the day, the court is going to look at whether or not it was a self-defense scenario. Outside, he will be charged with the misdemeanor with the rifle. He didn't take the rifle over state lines. We know that. It's owned by somebody in Kenosha. Outside, should he have been there or not? It doesn't matter because I'm arguing. My point is, it's moot. It's like we already covered that. He throws something. If somebody throws a Molotov cocktail at me, I'm gonna think that it's a life or death situation. He turns around, fires 2 shots. One grazes him in the head. The other hits him in the femoral artery in his groin. Bleeds out. And of course, the friggin' Antifa medics don't know how to do a fucking blood swipe. So the guy bled out in front of them while everybody was taking photos. He dies. All right. Yeah, you're right. He's like, fuck. Now you're 17 years old. You just killed somebody. Of course. You're like, what the fuck? You're going to try to get the fuck out of there. The crowd follows him. That's when he shot at somebody else. He missed. I don't know. I'm going to admit I don't know the circumstances to that. So I'm not going to defend those shots that Veronica mentioned that somebody missed because I don't know the circumstances. He somehow falls. Skateboard dude comes up wielding a skateboard. First off, a skateboard will absolutely split your skull open and you'll fucking die. You will. It's a deadly weapon. Somebody's swinging. I'm putting myself in that situation. Somebody swings a skateboard at me. I view that as a threat. He shoots him. The third shot, that guy came up, and there are photos that the New York Times published of the guy raising his hand, walking towards him, and then the second photo, pulling the gun up while this hand is still fucking up. It's a false surrender that was designed to kill this kid. This guy was going up to shoot this kid dead, and he shot him. That guy died. That guy lived. His arm is a mangled mess, but he lived. And outside the fact that that was a felon with a pistol, we're not even going to touch that. So I think, me personally, I think all three, outside the legality of him having a rifle, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because it is still a self-defense shoot. They're still going to frame it as it was him or the other person. Now, to Veronica's point, if we swapped the ideologies here, I think, Veronica, I'm going to disagree with you respectfully because in Portland, I've watched about, at this point, 6 or 7 different footages of that Trump supporter being killed. And in my personal opinion, that was a targeted killing. Somebody yells out, "We got one over here. We got 2 shots. Now we got a guy lying dead in the street with 2 sucking chest wounds, or dying in the street with 2 sucking chest wounds." Nobody has been arrested for that. Vice literally ran an article with the dude who did that, and no arrests have been made. Vice interviewed the guy, and he claimed it was self-defense because he was a Trump supporter and he feared for his life. He wasn't armed. He didn't have anything in his hands. They had previously identified him as part of being the Patriot Prayer group at the gas station in Portland. They knew him from before. They said, "Hey, there's one." The guy shot the guy twice in cold blood. That is different. I'm not going to – those 2 situations are different, and that is a hill I'm willing to die on in saying those 2 situations are different. So I will sit here, and I will gladly take my licks for disagreeing with Veronica and Ron, but I feel very strongly about this. Outside of that, I think that the Second Amendment, you still have a right to self-defense in this country, no matter how old you are. And I'm saying there is legal precedent. Just last year, a 14-year-old smoked 2 would-be home invaders with an AR-15.
Castle doctrine applies there.
So in that state, there was no castle doctrine.
Okay, all right.
Just stand your ground.
It's a state law.
So I do.
All right.
At this point, I'm viewing it as a right to self-defense, and now I will take my beating.
Yeah, take your beating. All right, Veronica, fire back before we move on to, are you buying it or are you not buying it?
So I'd like to first off say that victim blaming and drawing a false parallel to the psychology that is rape is not the same thing. Women don't get raped because of what they wear. Women get raped because people are terrible. And that has nothing to do with, and that's not just women, that's also men, right? Because
you're right.
Men
but
also
I'm going to say advocating your Second Amendment right is not an invitation for somebody to escalate things to actual physical violence.
Agreed.
That's the only parallel. I'm not comparing
to that point. That's how I feel about the third gentleman who walked up with a pistol. We tend to idolize this 2A, and all of the shootings that end up happening in the U.S. It's always, well, a shooter or a gun owner stopped another shooter, stopped this tragedy from happening because they had a gun or whatever, right? Like gun owners stop gun owners or whatever the logic is behind that. And from the perspective I can imagine of the people at this rally, riot, whatever you want to categorize it at, but these group of people watching this child, they don't know how old he is, they just know it's a guy with a gun who has now shot and killed one person, ran, shot at another person, and now shot a third person, or shot at and hurt another person. At this point, it looks like a shooter, right? And in all of these situations as Americans, we always talk about, especially the 2A folk are always talking about, oh, well, if I had my gun, this is what I would do. So him pretending to hold his hands up to try to put this kid in a vulnerable position, like, I get that. That to me, in my mind, is self-defense, right? Because you're trying to stop a situation from escalating, which it already has. The kid being there is relevant because he shouldn't have been there. Period.
So here's the thing, though.
Hold on, Nick.
The last thing I'd like to say, it did show in secondary footage that it wasn't a Molotov cocktail. It was a plastic bag that was thrown at Kyle. It wasn't a Molotov. It was a plastic bag that did not hit him. So that changes a lot of things.
But was it on fire? Because the footage looked like it was on fire.
There's a second video that shows that it was a plastic bag.
I haven't seen that. But to that point of, we talk about good guys with guns stopping bad guys with guns. But at that point, we had people who were attacking him. That's like taking this argument, it would be like, listen, you and I, all 4 of us are sitting at, I don't know, Cabo San Lucas.
Oh, sweet. Always
It's
wanted
great,
to go.
right? Listen, I'm trying to lighten the mood here. Guy comes up with a knife.
Do I have an umbrella drink?
Yes, you do.
Yes, you
Ron.
do.
And guess what? It is extra fruity for you. It's delicious. It's sweet. It's melting. So it's running.
It's a
It's
Mai
trapped
Tai.
in that mustache. The
Yes,
flavor
it is.
savor is in full
Oh,
effect.
God. I
But
knew he was
anyways,
going to do that.
so at this point, it would be like if somebody walked up with a knife. Okay, or a skateboard. Anything that could be used as a deadly weapon outside the plastic bag, because, again, I did not see that. What I saw, the footage I saw, looked like something shattered on the ground. It looked like something was on fire. But if somebody walked up with a knife and I pull out my gun and shoot that guy, now you're saying, like everybody else, if we're using this argument of, oh, a good guy with a gun stopping a bad guy with a gun, then people should draw down on me and shoot me because I've utilized deadly force to stop a threat towards my life. But that's what's happened. It wasn't like a guy walked into a church.
Situation.
He didn't walk in and start opening fire. In that case, if somebody went up to him, or even if a felon with a gun shot him, that would be a good shoot, in my opinion. If Kyle walked up into this crowd and just started wasting people, and somebody shot at him, that's a good shoot. That's self-defense. But if somebody uses a gun in the course of self-defense, and then somebody else with a gun goes to stop him, that's not the same as saying,
we have to call the situation.
Talk about.
Okay,
And we need to
let's not have the trial
this-
tonight. Veronica, what do you got? 30 seconds. What do you got, Veronica?
We need to call the situation what it is. He illegally used a gun. Illegally. He's not a legal gun owner. That matters.
Okay. All right. So now you've heard all sides. and
Well
some
done,
in between.
Veronica. You get the last word.
Yeah,
well
you've heard
done.
all sides in between. So real quick, I'm going to come to Ron before we get out of here. I slight movie news segment. Local story. We're going to go. Are you buying it or are you not buying it? The leader of the House Majority Leader, Nancy Pelosi, was recently caught on video frequenting a hair salon here in the lovely Bay Area of San Francisco, where the entire city is still shut down. She held a press conference to say that she was, quote, set up. Ron, buying it or not buying it, real quick.
The rules don't apply to me. No, of course not. Nancy got caught, and in the big scheme of things, it doesn't make any difference. But it just points out the arrogance of the political elite, the supposed ruling class.
Outstanding. And Nick, we'll come to you real quick before we give Veronica the last word and get the hell out of here for this week.
Same thing as Ron. Rules
not
for
buying
me,
it,
not for me. Not buying it. You could pay me to buy that, and I'm not buying it. You're not. Listen, I'm no professional shopper. I'm not buying this shit. I'm not.
Mystery shopper? No.
Listen, it's the same thing as Fauci at the ball game. You know, like the guy. It's the exact same situation.
Analogy.
And then if she's going to say, oh, they set me up for political gain, it's the Bay Area. I can count on one hand how many –
you can go and stay in D.C.
Exactly. I can count on one hand how many people would actually are against Nancy Pelosi in the Bay Area.
Exactly.
Not buying it one bit.
All right, Veronica, what do you got before we get the hell up out of this place?
Hell no, not buying it. That appointment was made in advance. Like, what a crock of shit. Lady, come on, just say like, man, I fucked up. Like, that's it. Leave
That's
it
all
at
you
that.
got to do. Like, we're the greatest in this country for just giving people the benefit of the doubt when you just admit it. All right, so that was it. That was There Will Be Banter. Remember, you may not think like us, but chances are you think like one of us. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
I love it.
Hey, look at that.
I love that.
It's like I rehearsed this. All right, see you later.
God help us.
I love you guys.